this is the entrance to the Thailand Cave. This is where all the activity is focused, and things are winding down here now for the night because the operation will take a pause, as it did last night. They will have a rest, they'll rebuild their energy, and they'll resupply the equipment that they need to finish off this job, to continue the mission tomorrow, to rescue the remaining 4 boys and their coach. But today has been really positive. There's been so much more good news. The fact that they've been able to bring out another 4 boys to join the 4 who were taken to hospital yesterday. And we're just getting some lines through from a press conference that's being held by the officials in charge of the operation. They've thanked the royal family for supporting this operation. They say that it started at around 11 o'clock here this morning, and by 8 p.m. this evening all the boys were sent to the local hospital, and they say they are well. They say the operation today lasted 9 hours. That's 2 hours quicker than the operation yesterday. So it shows you that they're getting more familiar with the routine. They're getting to know the way that they're actually getting these boys out, and they're able to actually do it quicker than they were yesterday. So everything here has been positive today, much more good news. I'll tell you a bit more about exactly how this rescue's been conducted, but I'll just bring you this detail that we're getting from the official press conference. They've had more officers working today and say they are more experienced, but there were 18 divers at the core of this rescue. That's the same as yesterday, and we know that that's a team of 13 internationally renowned cave divers who've come here to Thailand from right around the world to bring their expertise from diving in some of the toughest parts of the world. It's that experience, that skill, that has come up with this rescue plan and is now putting it into action so successfully. And those 13 international divers are joined by 5 from the Royal Thai Navy, the best 5 divers that they could pick. But there is a huge support team here, and that's what you've seen just coming in and out of the cave complex, really. Some of the volunteers, most of them, who are supporting this rescue effort, the military and the police also involved in huge numbers. So lots of people moving back and forward, lots of logistics that have to be put in place to keep this rescue plan on track. And there'll be people here overnight. Even though the rescue attempt is being paused, they'll still be monitoring conditions in the cave and making sure that everything's ready for tomorrow morning, when they'll return to go in again and try and bring out those remaining 4 boys and their coach. And we know that the Prime Minister also paid a visit here today, the Prime Minister of Thailand, and he's visited some of the parents who are at the hospital, which is an hour's drive from here in a town called Chiang Rai. The ambulances that have brought the boys out have been heading off in that direction to drive them to hospital, or in that direction to reach a helicopter landing pad which has been created at the bottom of the road here, where there's some flat land, and some of the boys have been flown to the helicopter. So the Prime Minister has visited there today and spoken with some of their parents. And we know the 4 boys who were rescued yesterday are still being treated in hospital. They've actually been held in quarantine, officials said, because they want to monitor them, they want to check exactly what their health is, because they've spent more than 2 weeks deep in that cave and they don't quite know exactly what they've been subjected to, exactly what issues they may have. So they're taking their time, they're being very careful, not just in bringing the boys out to the surface, but then in making sure they get the care they need in hospital. And there's no doubt for anyone that they will need more time to get over this ordeal, to come to terms with exactly what's happened and to readjust to life outside. And they're already the focus of a lot of media attention. The eyes of the world have been on this rescue attempt ever since it started 2 weeks ago, and these boys will now be to some degree famous. They've been through such a big ordeal and such a daring rescue that looks like so far it's going successfully. Now let me talk about the way this rescue has unfolded since the boys first went missing more than 2 weeks ago. They went into that cave, down that road and in that cave with their football coach, a 25-year-old. We believe it was one of the boys' birthdays, and there's a local tradition here where on your birthday you visit the cave and write your name on the wall. We understand that's what the boys were doing when they found suddenly it was raining heavily outside the cave and the water level inside started increasing. That forced them deeper into the cave, trying to escape the rising water. That is how they got trapped. And for 10 days, no one knew where they were or whether they were alive. It took divers that amount of time to explore in the flooded caverns and passages that make up this cave complex before they discovered the boys stranded, sitting above the water on a dry ledge. But everyone's concern then was that the water level could rise further and put them at risk. It rains really heavily here, especially at the moment it's monsoon season, so there's been a race against time to beat any heavy rain, and although it has rained over the last few days, the water level in the cave has been relatively stable. They've been pumping water furiously ever since the boys went missing. Millions of litres of water pumped out of the cave to try and stop the water level increasing. Now then they had to explore options for actually getting the boys out. An impossible puzzle, a really tricky conundrum. There's the option of waiting for the water level to drop so that they could walk out the way that they went in, but that could have taken months. There's the option of drilling down from above to try and free them from above, but the terrain here is really hilly, really steep cliffs that are covered in thick jungle vegetation, so officials were finding it difficult to even work out where they needed to start drilling to dig down the 600 meters or so it would have taken to reach that cavern. They have been exploring different boreholes, they've been trying that, but they favoured this method of teaching the boys to scuba dive so that they could effectively be swum out under the water. That's what's been going on for the last few days. The caving experts teaching them how to swim in the first place, some of them because they've not been in the water before, and then trying to make them familiar with the techniques of scuba diving, giving them a mask to put over their faces with air supply that will help them breathe, and making them comfortable with the equipment, with the sensation of being underwater. It may be cold, it may be dark, it's difficult to navigate, you don't know what obstacles are coming up, and some of the narrow passageways that they've had to wriggle through to get themselves free mean that this is one of the most challenging cave dives in the world. Even many experienced cave divers would struggle getting through some of these bottlenecks, and we know that one of the dive rescue team lost his life here, a former Thai Navy diver who was working at Bangkok airport and volunteered to come back. He was leaving the cave after taking some air supply tanks in when he lost consciousness and lost his life, a 38-year-old called Saman Gunan. Now he's been held up as a hero for the sacrifice he made as part of this rescue attempt, but that made everyone more determined to make sure that there was a successful outcome. So having spent that time teaching the boys the techniques that they would need to get free, yesterday the plan was put into action. D-Day, they called it, an opportunity in the weather and their confidence in the boys' ability. That's why they started leading a small group out, expert divers guiding each boy through that difficult narrow passageways. There are parts where they emerge from the water and have to take the equipment off and walk for a bit, but then it's submerged again and they have to dive once more. And even when they reach the dry part of the cave, they're still almost a mile's walk away from the entrance. So this has been a really tough journey to the surface, but one that has gone successfully so far for 8 of these boys, but 4 more still stuck in that cave tonight, along with the 25-year-old coach, and they will have to spend a 17th night in there. Who knows how they sleep in there? Who knows what dark nightmares they've had in those 17 nights? This ordeal has gone on, but it looks like rescue is now close. Successful rescue for 8 of these boys, and everyone here hoping that that success can be repeated tomorrow so that there is a happy conclusion for everyone involved in this story. It would be an amazing feat of human endeavour, countering all the challenges that nature has laid down for them here, but people really have come together, have worked together, have applied their skills, their experience in a tremendous effort to solve this puzzle, to free those boys and to save those 13 lives.